Ah, seems like I've got a lot of work ahead of me tonight. A lot like Pat's mother does.
Yeah, I'm starting off with Goldeneye. What, you think I'd start with fucking James Bond Jr. or some shit? No, we're doing Goldeneye. No, fuck that! Anyway, for those like Liam who are too young to remember, GoldenEye 007 was a big fucking deal. I had schoolyard fights with PlayStation fanboys who said that fucking Medal of Honor was better than GoldenEye.
No.
GoldenEye was not only important for video games, but the entire Bond franchise as a whole. The movie itself was a moderate hit and brought Bond back into the 90s, but it didn't exactly light the world on fire. The game certainly did though, as a whole generation of kids and college students went from going, "Who's James Bond?" to "Whoa, James Bond is the shit!" And hey, it also has a super weird and kind of secretive history, which we'll get into first before I start to properly review this 12 meg monster of a game.
Now pay attention, 007.
When Nintendo first got the license for the movie, it was originally going to be a 2D action platformer using the same rendered CG graphics engine that ran the Donkey Kong countries, well, that would have made a badass game in its own right. But before that even really got off the ground, it was then proposed that the game should be moved to Nintendo's Ultra 64!
Available for your home in 1995, only on Nintendo Ultra 64.
And be made into 3D. The initial design for that version was actually going to be a light gun shooter where the player is guided around the levels on rails, very similar to Virtua Cop. Sega's franchise actually turned out to be pretty big influence on the game, as it shared a few elements from the positional hit detection on enemy models, the destructible backgrounds, and shootable civilians. One programmer at Rare simply decided to unstick the rails one day and found that free roaming through the levels was pretty fun. That simple gesture changed the landscape of first person. Okay, look, history lesson over. How does the game actually hold up today? Pretty rough at first. I'm not gonna lie, it takes some getting used to when you first pop in GoldenEye in 2013. After a level or two though, you start getting the hang of it, and you feel how unique the game is since it came from that weird rail shooter perspective, and that's something that got carried over to Perfect Dark and Time Splitters. Rare was just good at making their shooters feel a certain way. After that initial awkward phase, playing GoldenEye again, blowing away those blocky Russians and watching their hats and guns fall all over the place is still pretty fucking satisfying. The other thing that makes GoldenEye great is just how close it sticks to the movie, which isn't surprising because it came out 2 years after the movie. If they'd somehow managed to fuck that up, that'd been really embarrassing. The game also set a lot of standards for future 007 titles, such as the opening gun barrel intro, a host of gadgets to use, and a really nice front end and UI that has you navigating dossiers and folders as if Bond is at his desk going, "The silo sure was fucking brilliant. Let's go there right now through the power of proper British magic."
Grow up, 007.
There's also the tons of unlockable cheats you can get by finishing single player missions in record times, most of them doing a lot to change the game up. My favorite, of course, being Donkey Kong mode. Russians always look more awesome when they have giant heads and manimal paws. And yes, the multiplayer. The multiplayer that defined a generation. The multiplayer that turned drooling armless children into hairy alpha males. Before you had to deal with online passes, pre-order DLC, day one patches, and all that awesome convenient stuff. All you needed in 1997 was 3 other friends and a healthy dose of unquenchable bloodlust. One of my most vivid gaming memories from that era was playing GoldenEye multiplayer for the first time, and I rushed into a room just as a friend caught sight of me and fucking just started unloading his M16 rifles in my direction. I looked at his screen and saw both of his barrels just blaze. The only high better than that is if Xenia Onatop was riding you. Now, what sucks about GoldenEye? It's not some flawless masterpiece, is it?
Yes! I am invincible!
No, it's not. Even by N64 standards, the frame rate can get kind of unbearable at times, even in single player. It's hard to go back to a title from a time where super dippy molasses frame rates were acceptable or even considered charming in a weird way. Also, the graphics have aged when stacked against other rare games on the N64, or even other James Bond games released around the same time. It's mostly level specific, but sometimes it's just hard seeing what you're doing or what the fuck is that in the distance. But hey, these are the pitfalls you must navigate when you're strolling down the halls of antiquity. So if you're thinking of revisiting the original game, I say it holds up pretty damn well considering its age, and it came at the dawn of 3D, which was proper bollocks for at least like 4 years. So go into your closet, dig it out, eBay it if you have to, invite some friends over, and have a good time.
For England, James? No.